Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, fellow veterans. And thank you for joining us. Happy Wednesday. My name is Veteran Coach TJ. I'm joined this morning by Veteran Coach Jordan over there, and we're going to be hanging out with you for the next hour or so. Super happy to have you here. Today is going to be a really cool topic, really important things to go over, being that Veterans Day is next Monday. It's going to be awesome stuff. So we're really happy to have you guys here. What we're going to do for the next 5 or so minutes while everybody kind of trickles in and tunes in is we'll just hang out. If you guys want to, please feel free to throw your branch of service into the comments, years that you served. If you are already a member of the elite program, you can give your coach a shout out. We love seeing that. Personally, I love seeing my fellow Air Force veterans represent. I know me and Jordan were just having a conversation about the the different branches, but hopefully we get more Air Force ones than Marines. Let's just say that, Jordan.
I don't know about that, Coach TJ, but it is great to have everyone here with us today. Veteran Coach TJ and I, like he said, we were just talking. We're super excited for this topic today. It's a great one. We're super happy to be here with you all on this Wednesday. Sound off in the comments. We'd love to give you a shout out. Give your coach a shout out if you'd like, if you're here with the program. But yeah, we'll get started.
Good stuff. And I see some comments already rolling in. Of course, the first one I believe was the Army. How typical. Rich, Army, and from Florida. Welcome, brother.
Yeah, coming in full swoop with the Marine Corps, Daniel. Good to see you here. Thanks for being there with us.
And there's Chip of the Air Force. You're in Texas. I'm in Central Texas myself. So good to have you here, Chip. Oh, look who's here. Stacy Allen.
The infamous.
The pressure's on, Jordan. We've got to perform like no other today.
We're going to give quite a show. I guarantee it.
That's right.
Sean, U.S. Army. Yep. U.S. Army, retired. Thanks for being with us.
Good stuff. Good turnout so far. For those of you that don't know, Stacy Allen is my manager, and he is an amazing man, an amazing person, amazing human. So we're happy that he's tuning in.
Absolutely. And my manager happens to be his daughter. And I think we're gunning for that spot. Yeah. Love the fact that I was able to get her as my manager. We couldn't be more blessed. 100%. Stephen, USMC Artillery here today. Thanks for bringing yourself here.
Yeah, going to be a good stuff. We'll let this go for a couple more minutes before we kick things off, but definitely this is a good time to point out that if you guys that are tuning in, if you've got questions, right, whether it's related to today's specific topic or not, save them up, throw them in the chat or the comments as we're moving through, because we'll have time to get around to as many questions as we can, and we always love doing that too. It's good opportunities for us to educate y'all on important things.
100%. Real quick, I'll do just a simple introduction for those that are tuning in that don't recognize my face. Again, my name is Veteran Coach Jordan. I am a United States Marine, and since getting out of the Marine Corps, I have had the pleasure of serving veterans in many aspects of their life, and it is my passion to serve all veterans and prepare them and get them ready during their VA claims process, and understanding the education and the pathways. And it is an honor for me to be an elite coach here at the elite program. Never got the chance to be a member for my own claims, but again, it's an honor to be here as a coach.
Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, and you guys can see Jordan's link up there. If you guys are wanting or interested in signing up, click that link. It'll take you directly to her page, and she's an amazing coach, amazing person. So she's going to get you going in the right direction for sure. And thank you for that introduction as well, Jordan. I'll go ahead and kind of quickly introduce myself. I am, as I mentioned earlier, an Air Force veteran. I also was never a client here at VA Claims Insider, but what I can tell you is that when I went through the VA claims process for a period of 5 or 6 years, and was stubborn, was hard headed about it, was trying to do it on my own, and man, I went through so many trials and tribulations and denials, decreases. I went through it all, and I don't think that I would have went through most of that if I had a program like this. So we're really happy that you guys are all tuning in here. You're in the right spot. You're getting the right types of information, and hopefully this will really help you on down the line with your claims journey. But again, we are super happy to have you guys here. Before we get this thing kicked off, I'm going to go ahead and read a quick disclaimer. So we are not accredited agents, VSOs, attorneys, or any other entity recognized by the Department of Veterans Affairs, and we are not affiliated with the VA in any way. VA Claims Insider is an education-based coaching consulting company for disabled veterans exploring eligibility for increased VA disability benefits and who wish to learn more about that process. VA Claims Insider also connects veterans with vetted independent medical professionals in our preferred provider network for medical examinations and independent medical opinions, or IMOs, for a wide range of disability conditions. All right, so um, a big thing is it's the bread and butter of what we do here. It's called SEM, right? It stands for Strategy, Education, Medical Evidence. It is the bread and butter for success with your VA disability claims. It's what we focus on here at VA Claims Insider, as far as coming up with a claim strategy with you and your coach, educating you on that strategy and really how to execute it. And then, of course, talking about medical evidence if that is necessary for your journey. You will get, if you do sign up as an elite member, you'll get that one-on-one coaching. So you will have a specific coach assigned to you. They'll go over all that strategy with you. They'll be there with you while, through your claim submission process. And then, of course, when you submit your claim, if you are sent to a C&P exam, your coach will be there, not in the exam, of course, but with you, educating you through that process. So we also do have live classes via Zoom. If you sign up, you'll have access to those. They're 3 times a day. One of the things we do here is called Coffee with the Coaches. It's every morning, Monday through Friday, typically, and it's just kind of a hangout sesh, right? It's a bunch of veterans hanging out. There's no real specific topic or anything like that. It's really good camaraderie. I know that a lot of us probably miss that ever since getting out of the service. Is just that camaraderie, that feeling of the brother and sisterhood of your fellow veterans. So that's good stuff. And then we also have classes on mental health C&P education, as well as medical C&P education, depending on what type of claim you're doing. So really good stuff. If you're interested in kind of learning more about what we do or trying to see if we're a good fit for you, you can go ahead and book a no obligation discovery call. You'll talk with one of our team members and they'll explain everything for you. And but please, feel free, check out our website, vaclaimsinsider.com. We'd love to help you out if we can. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Coach Jordan.
Thank you, Coach TJ. I appreciate that. And I also, before I get started on today's topic for everyone, I would like you to know that Coach TJ's referral link has also been posted into the chat. He gave me that nice welcome for you all, and I would love for you all to know just how amazing Coach TJ is. Please do get on his link if you're needing and wanting services. So for today's topic is Veterans Day. Some little bit of history for us and also some statistics. So too often holidays pass without much consideration of the origin or significance of that date that we're being recognized. Veterans Day is no exception. We all know there's a lot of miscommunication when it comes to the purpose of Veterans Day. So at VA Claims Insider, we're 100% focused on veterans every day of the year. But on Veterans Day, we feel it's of the utmost importance to take the time to honor those veterans who served and understand how this day of observance was established. So, what is Veterans Day and how did it begin? Veterans Day is a day for us to celebrate America's veterans for their patriotism, bravery, love of their country, and their willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good of all. But on Veterans Day, it wasn't always a day designated to honor all veterans. It actually originated back to World War I, and the day was originally associated with that war. In World War I, it was officially ended with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, and the fighting of the Great War had ended 7 months earlier when the Allied nations and Germany agreed to a truce. That truce began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, November 11th of 1918, thus becoming known as Armistice Day, a day of truce. And President Woodrow Wilson soon proclaimed November 11th to be an annual commemoration of Armistice. Then, in 1946, a Navy World War II veteran from Birmingham, Alabama, named Raymond Weeks, he began petitioning leaders, including the General Dwight Eisenhower, to widen the scope of Armistice Day. And this was to celebrate all American veterans, not just those who fought in World War I. So in 1954, 8 years after Navy veteran Raymond Weeks began his petition, his efforts were finally rewarded. Congress officially changed Armistice Day to what we know now as Veterans Day, honoring all American veterans who have served our nation. Weeks became known as the father of Veterans Day, and in 1982, President Ronald Reagan awarded him with the Presidential Citizenship Medal. And this was for his contributions to the veteran community. Reagan also acknowledged that for more than 50 years, Mr. Weeks had exemplified the finest tradition of American volunteerism by his unselfish service to this country. So just a little bit of history for everyone. I love that piece. It's super important so that everyone understands the purpose and the significance behind this day. Coach TJ, would you like to discuss the statistics and how many veterans there are?
I sure would. Thank you. Great job too, by the way. That was y'all got a nice free history lesson there. Very important. Maybe a lot of people didn't know that the history of Veterans Day and how it came to be. So that was awesome. All right. So how many veterans are in the world, right? How many veterans we got out there right now? So according to research and analysis, there are 18, well, a little over 18.5 million as of 2023. Okay, veterans, American veterans out there. What's slightly alarming is that number is declining year over year. It is declining, and so by the time you hit 2050, you're talking about, what is that, 25 or so years from now, that number is expected to be at an all-time low of a little under 12 million, about 11.8 million. So pretty big decrease there, and pretty alarming when you consider how many there are now. And so how many transitioning service members are there? So on average, about 200,000 service members leave the military and return to their lives as civilians. So, you know, and it's a tough transition. Most of us, if not all of us tuning in, have made that. But according to the most recent transition assistance program, 164,000 transition from military to civilian life as of 2022. So that kind of contributes to that number slowly declining, you know, from the 200,000, and it's getting a little bit lower and lower every single year. Now, this is something that I'm sure, you know, many veterans have taken advantage of, and I do believe that we may have a blog, a VA Claims Insider blog, that we can maybe throw in there. But there's a lot of good promotions on Veterans Day. Jordan, I'm sure maybe at some point you may have taken part in one or two of them. I've done a couple of them myself over the years, but there's a lot of good things out there, and you got to do your research. Just look it up. You know, there are a lot of different restaurants and companies that'll offer discounts or a free meal or an entree or something like that. And be sure to take advantage of that. You know, you've earned it. That's the most important thing. All right. So, and I don't know, I didn't even see, did that link get thrown in there? If not, maybe we can throw it into the comments. There's a VACI blog, but Look, there's a lot of different ways. It's not just about getting a free meal or whatever it may be. Um, if you know a veteran, and most of you are veterans, so I'm sure you do. Um, when it comes to Veterans Day, reach out, right? Reach out to your buddies, thank them, ask if there's anything you can do, right, to help, to support, whatever it may be. But that's a big thing, and not really just for Veterans Day, but especially on Veterans Day. But it's always a good reminder of doing those buddy checks as well, right? Reach out to people. It's very, very important. Everybody knows that there's mental health and there's issues amongst veterans, and it's very, very important. Reach out to those that you know, even if you don't talk to them hardly ever or not in years. That can go a long way. That can, just one little reach out can go a long way, guys. Um, Seriously. And I don't know, with that being said, Jordan, you got anything else to add to that with the states, the popular states here amongst veterans?
Yes, actually, there's a little bit of a list I would like to go over real quick. There's some popular states, and the reason that I like to discuss this is for veterans who travel, veterans who are thinking about moving from their state of residence that they're at. It's behoove of veterans in specific to look at those resources. Every state has different resources available and benefits available, and so here's just a little list of the top 10 states that have the highest, most popular veteran statistics within that state. So Texas, of course, coming in number one with over 1.2 million veterans residing within that state. California as well, that beautiful sunshine state, coming in just below Texas, around about the same, but it's about 1.4 million veterans. Florida, again, coming in hot, securing that third spot of 1.4 million veterans. And then it really drops significantly after those states. You're looking at Pennsylvania coming in at 4, but you're dropping down to roughly about 100 or 700,000, just below 700,000 veterans. Virginia, Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, New York, and Illinois. Those are all the states that made it in the top 10 bracket that have the most veteran population within that state. So again, just something, a little piece of education to throw out there for any veteran that is wanting to move states, just to give some research. Brian has an incredible book as well, and it'll detail not only federal, but state specific veteran benefits for all 50 states. So please be sure to check that out as well. And just like Coach TJ was just saying, they were able to put in not only the YouTube, but Facebook, the link to go and check the benefits for your states, and also for Veterans Day deals that are coming up. And like Coach TJ said, it's nothing that we truly focus on, but it is nice to go get a free breakfast with a family member or another service member, and never forget to do your buddy checks. And like Coach TJ said, we don't talk all the time as veterans. Life gets busy, but when this day rolls around, if you can, take that moment and think of your past and future, and wish them adieu, wish them well, make sure they're all doing okay. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Thanks, Coach TJ. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. And like Coach Jordan said, those links were thrown into the comments. Be sure to check those out, and especially the one about all the different states, like Jordan was mentioning, and there every state's a little bit different. Some states have different benefits, but I promise you, if you check that out, you will learn at least one thing that you did not know, as far as maybe a benefit that you could have been getting all this time and didn't know about. Seriously, check that out. It can be life changing at times. And thank you. There's your esteemed manager checking into the comments, Cassie Allen. Um, but yeah, this is a really good topic, and we've got a few questions that have been thrown in. I want to kind of get around to some of those. And again, guys, we've got another 40 minutes, plenty of time, and there's a lot of good knowledge in this room between myself and Jordan. So this is a great time, as good a time as ever. Get your questions out, whether you're going through the claim process or you're thinking about signing up or you've never done it before, whatever it may be. That's what we're here for. And I'm going to start with Chip's question here at the top, which says, can you file for tinnitus and another claim for hearing loss? The answer to that question is simply yes. At this point, yeah, you can file separate claims for tinnitus and hearing loss. Right now, the VA potentially can give separate ratings for both. You're going to want to make sure that if you haven't been to the doctor, I mean, if you've watched any videos from Brian Reese, it's one of the first things he's always saying, and this is not just with tinnitus or whatever, but any condition, go to the doctor, right? That's going to be the first thing that can make your claim much stronger. Go to a doctor, get some treatment, get some diagnosis, some documentation, paper trail, whatever it is that you need for your health, and get that done. But that's a good question, Chip, because that's a lot of veterans are confused on that. Tinnitus, hearing loss. A lot of veterans don't know kind of, are they different? Are they the same? Are they lumped into one? So great question.
Yeah, and real quick, Coach TJ. So I have prior experience as an analyst for the VA, and so for Chip's question, again, very, very good question. And just like Coach TJ just said, it's very common to get this question because of the way it's presented at the VA. So a little bit of behind the scenes, and us veterans going through the claims process, we don't have access to this knowledge. But again, behind the scenes, a hearing loss and tinnitus exam is housed on the same disability benefits questionnaire. And so a lot of the time, let's say a veteran goes in for hearing loss, they're going to be asked not only about that hearing loss, but that provider could and potentially will ask about, do you experience tinnitus? And then the veteran gets a bit confused because it's not what they claimed. And the sheer fact is only because tinnitus and hearing loss share that same DBQ. And when an audiologist and you're getting that audiogram, they just go ahead and maybe ask a couple questions, and vice versa. If you go in for your tinnitus and the provider just goes ahead and does an audiogram, it's nothing for a veteran to worry about. It is simply a provider just doing what's in front of them, and in completing that DBQ in full. And so nothing to worry about. Just like Coach TJ had said, it is fine. They are separate, but they do share the same worksheet. So great question.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. And that's what I was just saying. There's a lot of knowledge in this room. You heard it from Jordan herself, being a former analyst with the VA. She's got all kinds of good knowledge on that. And so thank you for adding that in there, Jordan, because that's super important.
Sure.
All right. What else do we have here in the chat? Stephen, VA is trying to cut your pay. Lawyer wants to try to increase it. So, yeah, Stephen, if you're working with lawyers, law firm, best of luck to you. I can tell you that if there was very little change on your last hearing test, so we'll see, right? Hearing loss is one of those. It can be a tricky claim, right? It can be a little bit tough at times. It's being that it's solely based on, as far as the rating purposes, your results from a hearing test. But it can be very tough going that route. But if you had it documented in the service that your hearing was, going down pretty significantly, it's definitely something to go for. And so if that's what you're doing, Stephen, best of luck to you on that claim. I do see a question, actually. Yeah, he's got 3 questions. So we're going to go ahead. Let me address the first one. Good afternoon. I was recently diagnosed with sleep apnea, and I've got thyroid and headache, service connected. My question is, how can I submit my claim as secondary? What type of evidence do I need? Really good question. So what you're going to want, and this is, pretty common in a lot of different claims. Some of you veterans may be familiar with this term, but nexus letters can be huge, right? And what is that for nexus? Fancy word for connection, right? So a medical opinion, an independent medical opinion from a medical professional explaining, in their own professional opinion, how and why they believe a diagnosis is related to your service, whether that be directly or secondarily related to something else. Yeah, that's going to be something that can be crucial in your claims process, is getting a nexus letter. And if you do decide to sign up with us, we have our preferred provider network. They are a separate company. but that's what they specialize in, right? That's the whole reason they exist. They're very, very good at what they do, and that's a route that you can look into. But that's going to be what you're going to want, is a nexus letter. You had mentioned down below here. It sounds like you've already got the diagnosis. You're using a CPAP machine, so diagnosis and a nexus, right? Those are two main things to start a claims journey, right? You've got to have the condition medically diagnosed, and then you got to get a nexus, something to connect it to your service medically. And I don't know, Jordan, if you've got anything to add to that.
Yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. I think it was very, very clear. Yeah, and just I like bringing up the Calusa triangle. That's the VA's requirement from all veterans, that Calusa. Being able to fulfill that with that diagnosis in the nexus, meaning that link. And then obviously everything is won by medical evidence. If the medical evidence is there to support not only that nexus, but that diagnosis, that's when the veteran's going to see a better outcome. But if there's a piece of that triangle missing, the VA is just going to slide it right back and request further information, or the denials will come that way. I thought that was beautiful.
Good stuff. Yeah, and that's that Calusa triangle is huge, right? I had mentioned the first two steps, right? A diagnosis, a nexus, but then also there's got to be that third portion of the triangle, is what happened in the service, or how is the service connected? Like I said, if it's an event or an incident that happened in service, or secondarily, right? And that's a lot of thing that veterans, I think, forget about. That secondary conditions are huge. A lot of veterans, especially when they're just kind of getting started with their claim process, they're talking about, well, I didn't go to the doctor, too much when I was in the service, or, but they've already got some ratings. Well, if you have a certain rating, let's say you've got, a rating for your knees, and now over the years, your back is starting to, kind of go out. A lot of veterans will be like, well, I didn't get treated in the service for my back, so I only got treatment for my knees. Secondary claims, those are just as viable and just as legit as a direct service. And that's something that a lot of veterans need to look into, especially if you already have service connected ratings for whatever conditions they may be. But yeah, that is
Mhm.
a great topic, and that's something that we could probably dive into for the whole hour if we needed to. But um, good stuff. So let's see, what do we got here? Hey, Art says, I want to get a job helping veterans. You and me both, brother. That's why I'm here. And Jordan's here for the same exact reason. But is this the best place to work for? VA Claims Insider, VSO agency? And look, it's in my opinion, any agency that's there to help veterans is amazing, first and foremost, right? And a lot of good people in all different capacities, whether it's VSO or here at VA Claims Insider. So that's probably more of a, you kind of got to sit down and figure out what would be best for you. To see, where you would rather be. If I mean, throw applications in, right? That's what I was doing. I really wanted to work with veterans, and I was throwing them in.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Art Healing, Semper Fidelis, of course. But I agree full-heartedly. Any entity that is attempting to serve veterans in whatever aspect, it's based off of what you yourself want to see out of that employment. So for myself, I went to the National Institute of Veteran Training. I have worked for the DAV. I have worked for state departments. I have worked for the VA themselves, and I have worked for contracted companies through the VA. And then ultimately, that is what brought me to be the expert that I am today. So again, I mean, working with VSOs and any other entity, I'm sure that you're going to find a sense of peace and being at home. It's just based off of what you want to surround yourself with. And everyone has their place in serving veterans. It is possible. And yeah, we love being here at VA Claims Insider, but there's never a day that the other entities who serve veterans, there's no disconnect or disregard towards them at all. But absolutely, if that's your passion, just like Coach TJ said, start throwing out those applications. Veterans need you just as much as you need other veterans. It's a two-way street there.
Yes, really, really good points there. And I saw another question from Chip that brings up another huge topic. So Chip says, if someone's over 65 years old and at 90%, can they get TDIU? Chip, this is kind of a multi-area answer, but this kind of depends. So first of all, if you are retired, especially if it's kind of voluntarily retired, right? I don't know that you are or not, but just let's say if a veteran is 90%, they decide to retire, TDIU is probably not going to get approved, because if you voluntarily are retired and it's not directly due to your service connected conditions, you didn't have to retire because of that, then the VA will most likely not approve that. Now, if you can't work anymore and it is due to all or a portion of your 90% rating, then absolutely that can be an option for you. And since you brought this up, I'm going to go over a couple of different qualifying factors for TDIU, just so that everybody knows, because this is a lot of veterans probably have questions about this. So to qualify just on paper for TDIU, and this does not mean that if you have this, it's going to automatically be approved, but to qualify to be eligible to apply, you've got to have one service-connected disability at 60% or higher, right? That's one of the things. If you've got that, you're going to be in the clear to apply. Or if you have two or more service-connected disabilities with a combined rating of 70% or higher, with at least one of your disabilities being at 40%. I know that can be confusing. You start to think about all these different numbers, right? But those are the basic, qualifying factors for TDIU. So Chip, if you're at 90%, and you cannot work because of your disabilities, that may be a path for you. And if you sign up, and you go ahead and get yourself a coach, right? They can go over that with you. That's the whole strategy portion of it, to see if that would be your best route, or maybe if there's something that would benefit you more other than TDIU. Great question. Jordan, anything to add? I may have missed something.
No, that was absolutely beautiful. And just all veterans have that question when it comes to a point when having to stop working is the main focus. If you are wanting to do part-time, if you're still wanting to be out in that civilian world, getting a paycheck and going to work every day, maybe TDIU isn't that game plan. And like Coach TJ said, discovery call, ask some questions, get a coach, get a strategy session. It could potentially be the pathway. But again, it is very, very specific. You need to have two of the qualifying things to even to put in the application. And then on top of that, it's really making sure that the veteran doesn't have the ability to go to work anymore. Because once that TDIU is put in place, it does prevent certain scenarios from happening from that point on. So I think that was beautiful. And I saw we have TC Lee here with a question. So it states about, what are my chances with a TDA error, which is on the HLR, where they're getting an IMO from an examiner who denied me earlier for the same thing? Do I demand an actual exam, or can I request a new examiner? So I thought this was a little bit of a tricky question there, based off of an HLR. When a veteran submits a high-level review, that high-level review is untouched in the way that it was submitted originally by the veteran. So let's start from the beginning. A veteran submits either a new claim or a supplemental. The CMP happens, all the evidence was uploaded. Let's say you had the IMO, you had a couple personal statements. It was all uploaded during that claim submission. Then the VA reaches out, gets you that CMP exam. After that CMP exam, that decision letter comes back, and you, the veteran, have been denied. But you also have a coach who looks at that denial letter and says, hey, veteran, I see this is missing and this is missing. You are able to go and do what is called a high-level review. And that is essentially filing another claim exactly the way it was done prior to, except for on a different form. And there is no evidence that is uploaded during this portion. This is the VA's area of going to the high-level raters and stating this veteran is requesting another review over this document because something was missing. It could be the service connection. It could be the DBQ, or the evaluation was wrong. So during that process, the VA has a duty to assist. That duty to assist error is stating that they could have potentially missed that IMO. And now their duty to assist is going back to that IMO, reviewing it again to ensure that they did not render an incorrect decision. So during an HLR process, again, a veteran does not want to upload additional documents. That's not what they're searching for. They're informing the veteran that they did find that error, that they're going back to review that document, and that a decision will be populated after that process. Now, on the second part of your question, where do you demand an actual exam or request a new examiner? During the HLR process, there's an informal conference that a veteran can select. That informal conference will last about 5, 10, 15 minutes. It is a very short phone call. And that phone call is only for that veteran to have an opportunity to repeat one last time as to why you requested that high-level review. Meaning, was it the service connection? Did they miss that nexus letter? Did they miss the diagnosis in general? Are your symptoms lacking? That is the reasons for high-level review, and you are able to tell that high-level rater exactly what was missing. They then hang up the phone, provide that duty to assist, and the research begins. So requesting an actual exam or a new examiner during that process is just not a part of that process. However, if an HLR comes back and it is not awarded in favor of the veteran, meaning another denial has come, there is still options for a veteran to, again, go and get another examiner, get another document, meaning file a supplemental with new and relevant evidence. Coach TJ, I know I just rambled on for quite a bit. Is there anything else that you could put on that, make a little more clear for our veterans here?
Every time I was thinking of something I could potentially add, it was like the next thing you'd say. So you really covered all bases there, and that's a good question, and it's a tricky one, like you said at the beginning. It really is. So the only thing, and I was scrambling through some articles trying to find some more information here for potentially one of these next questions. But if you do a higher level review, and the VA does send you to another C&P exam, then technically what's happening there is the VA is moving it to a supplemental claim. And I don't know if you went over this, Jordan, but if that does happen, it gives you that another chance, right? If you go to another C&P exam, if it was previously denied, now you're getting a new one, whether it's the same provider or a different one. Most of the time it's going to be a different one, but that does give you, another chance. So other than that, yeah, knocked it out of the park, Jordan. I don't have much to add for that, but I do have a question here or comment from Donna in the chat who says, so she's a CSO for DAV. She likes giving back. Amazing, and good on you for doing that, right? You're at 90%, but you also have IU. For those of you that don't know all the crazy acronyms, that's unemployability, right? TDIU, individual unemployability. So Donna opened a quilt shop for the joy of helping others. You're there 4 days, 7 hours, concerned about losing IU. So this could be multifaceted, but I will say for unemployability, there are income limits. If you are on unemployability, the VA has established income limits that you cannot go above without potentially losing your IU. Those limits are just set with the national poverty, I think it was, income amount. And this is, don't quote me on this. I'm looking at one of our articles, and we've got one on a blog. Maybe they can throw that into the chat as well. But as of 2023, for one person, annual income, again, this is annual, it's right around that like 16,000 per year limit. So if you want to make sure you check on that, right? Because whether you start a business or you get a part-time job, whatever it may be, if you're bringing in over those amounts, the VA very well may remove your individual unemployability, in which case, in your scenario, if that were to happen, and I hope it doesn't, but you would just go back to your 90% and that amount, and that's where you'd be at. Jordan, anything to add on that front?
No, I think that was beautiful as well. And it's the guidelines. It's super important for anybody that's on the TDIU, IU. I think it's lovely, Donna, you creating that business with the quilt shop. And I think the most important thing for you is to ensure that you look at those income limits. And like you said, you're only there 4 days, 7 hours. Ensure that the finances, right? Ensure that the finances rolling in stay within that frame for yourself so that you don't end up losing that. But again, that's just for you to keep that IU. But who's to say, Donna, that the quilt business takes off and you're able to transition and there's so many possibilities that come with it. But I think that was a very great question and great answer from you, Coach TJ.
Awesome. Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, that's a really important topic. And there's a lot of things, a lot of different types of income, right? It's not just a job, but like, if you're a business owner, a very wise man named Daryl McDonald, some of you may have seen him in the past. He's a Marine as well. So Jordan, you guys can brag about that later. But he once told me that there's other different types of incomes that they will consider, even gambling winnings, if you're a frequent at a casino, right? So there's a lot of things too. It's not necessarily just a direct employment type of a thing. So you wanna be aware of all those different things. There is a question here from Benny. Uncle is on IU for 70% mental health. Just turned 56. His mental health is static. So is he okay for filing GERD, migraines, and ED as secondary? So this is going to be, totally up to your uncle if he wants to go for that or not. Especially if he is eventually wanting to work again, right? I think that's a big thing to take into consideration here. If he knows and he's like, no, there's no chance, not working again. It's not in the cards for me. Can't do it. Not going to happen. In that scenario, it may not make a whole lot of sense to start doing more claims, right? Because if you're on IU, you're making that 100% rate regardless. So even if he wins some more claims and he gets bumped from 70 to 100, it's going to be the same amount of money and the same amount of benefits. So in that scenario, it might not make sense. However, if he is wanting to work again, or if he's trying to get back into the workforce, whatever that may be, then it may be very smart to start putting together more claims, right? And try to get to that 100%. So that way he can have that income and those benefits, but then also go back to work on top of that. Again, that's a very individual choice for your uncle to make, but those are some options that I would definitely consider. And again, book a discovery call, right? Those no obligation discovery calls, that's what those are there for. You can find out, talk to somebody, a great team member here, find out if we're a good fit for you, and vice versa. It never hurts to do that and see where we can go from there.
Yeah, 100%. The TDIU is a very popular question. It very much is, and rightfully so. I completely understand. There was a point for my own personal VA claims process that it was brought up. I didn't think of it. It was brought up for me, and at the time I was 27, and at 27 years old, I really sat down and thought, do I really not want the opportunity to ever hold a position again? Knowing that my passion is serving veterans and knowing that if I ever did the TDIU, I would be locked in there and unable to potentially see what my future held. And not all veterans are in that situation. But like I said, that was me personally. And 27 years old, I still felt like I had a fight within me. And I fought. I fought for that VA claim and I didn't do the TDIU. And for me, myself, it was the best move I could have made. But like Coach TJ said, there are veterans who are at the end of their journeys of working. They're ready to settle down and take their time and have their retirement, if you will, and their peace within their life. And maybe their conditions just aren't reaching that 100%, but they qualify for that TDIU and they can secure that 100% benefit and rating compensation. Then absolutely it's worth fighting for that TDIU. Just remembering that there are guidelines with that employment. There are guidelines when it comes to how much monetary value that your person brings in each year. So love the questions. I know that sometimes the answers aren't very clear, but it's because it is a case by case basis and not every shoe is going to fit every veteran. And I've seen right here real quick, Colleen, can I talk to someone afterward? Yes, absolutely. That discovery call, you can just jump on the phone and chat with someone. There's no obligation. We're not going to drag you here. This is veterans come to VA Claims Insider because they want to fight this fight for themselves and they have a reason. So absolutely, Colleen, please do book a discovery call. They will chat with you and ensure that you get all the information and education about the program, and you can make that choice for yourself.
Yeah, and since we're on the TDIU topic, I've received a lot of questions in my time doing this from veterans relating to TDIU and specifically, and so just in case anybody's wondering or confused about this, TDIU is not something that's just going to be automatically slapped on you by the VA, right? So you have to apply for it. It's its own application process. So you can get to 100% on your own scheduler. It's called the scheduler 100% rating, which just means that you're doing your claims. They add up to 100%. In that scenario, if you're at 100%, you can still work, right? There's no income limitations. There's none of that type of stuff. It's only if you actually go and apply for TDIU. So I've gotten that question a lot, right? Some veterans will say, well, what if I get to 100%, are they going to let me work? What's the deal? Yes, if you're just doing normal claims and you get to 100%, there are no limitations. You can get 15 jobs if you want. You can make millions of dollars, and hopefully all of us veterans can do that one day, but that's a different topic. But yeah, that's really good. And I did see here a question from Ricky. And this is a good question too. What does static mean on your benefits? So if you've got conditions that the VA is labeled as static, what that just means is that it's not, the VA is determining that it's not going to improve. It's not a condition that's going to get better over time or with treatment or whatever it may be, right? So, and what that means is that the VA, if you've got static conditions, the VA is not going to bother you on those things. They're not going to come back and try to reevaluate you and see, oh, has it gotten better? Let's see if we can lower the rating. That's not going to happen. So that's the meaning of static there. And you can actually, Jordan, you've got a lot of experience working with different veteran organizations, but you can get what's called a VA rating code sheet to see if any of your current conditions are static. Anything to add there, Jordan?
Yes, I love this actually. Ricky, thanks for the question about static. A lot of veterans don't understand what the static is, and like Coach TJ said, he hit it right on the head there. The VA is not allowed to request a reexamination of a static disability. And if a veteran does end up receiving something like a reexamination letter, it's potentially an error, actually. So you could contact the VA and state, hey, I received a letter that I need to go for a routine future exam, but my condition is static. And that is your right as the veteran to announce that so they can, rectify that error. And there are ways to kind of identify on your own if a condition is, like Coach TJ said, go get that code sheet, and you'll see terms like permanent, or you'll see that you've been awarded like educational assistance with the DEA. Those are signs that there are static disabilities that are awarded to that veteran. And you can, they can at times reevaluate a static disability, but that is for new claims when you want to, as the veteran, increase, right? So we had a veteran in here earlier that was stagnant at 70%. But what if that veteran warrants that 100% increase? That reevaluation can be allowed by the VA at that time. So I don't want you to be confused by the reexamination. The VA is not going to request that from the veteran, but the veteran themselves can go and say, I would like to increase my percentage and ask for that on a stagnant condition. Also, if the VA has made an error and it's very fraudulent looking on that rating, that is also when sometimes you'll see that. But again, that code sheet, like Coach TJ had said, very much will tell you what static conditions that you have.
Yes, this is all really important information to know. And that's, again, bread and butter of what we do here. If you're not educated on all this type of stuff, the whole claim process is so much more difficult. Believe me, I speak from experience on that. When I was going through the process, like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't educated. I mean, I was doing some research. I was trying to become that, but it's the VA, right? And even the secretary of the VA is still learning new things every day, probably, right? I mean, there's so much to it. So that's what we do here, education, right? We educate you on what it takes for you to be as successful as possible in your claims journey, and ultimately that's what it's all about. And I did see I did see Colleen. She had said a little bit a few minutes ago, one condition service connected at 70. And if you're referring to TDIU, yes, if you have a condition that's service connected at 70% all by itself, then you'll be eligible to apply for TDIU. I don't know if that's what you were referring to, but I did want to address that just in case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see a couple questions here again about the static. So we got True Scout and Colleen coming in. So can static ratings get looked at again if you're claiming new secondary conditions? Which is a really great question because, again, I don't want veterans to be confused when it comes to a new condition. So a new condition, let's say a veteran has a mental health condition at 70%, that is static. That mental health condition is what's static. The new migraines condition isn't, okay? That condition is the new claim. That is the new claim that's going to be filed. It can also be secondary, if it is secondary to that mental health condition. But what True Scout was saying is that mental health going to be opened again because a veteran is seeking the secondary. And because that mental health condition is static, the answer to that question is no. Okay. If the main primary condition is static, the VA will not open that. They will service connect and look at the records, but they're not going to do a routine future exam and ask for more information on the static condition, only how it's secondary, asking for that diagnosis of the secondary and asking for that nexus, that supporting medical evidence stating how the new claim is secondary to the static condition. And then Colleen, to kind of move into that, Coach TJ, real quick. So static needs to be a new claim. So static isn't a claim. It is what happens to a veteran's condition once the VA has awarded that decision. So Colleen, if you go file for a new claim of any claim, whether it's a mental health or a physical or a neurological, that's not the focus. The focus is after that decision, is the VA saying that the condition will never get better? There is no chance that condition is going to have a decrease in rating. There's never going to be that day. So they say, all right, veteran whomever, we award 70% for mental health. We see that this condition is static. You will never see a lower rating because this condition will never get better. It will only get worse. Coach TJ, anything on that?
No, you knocked that one right out of the park, and I'm glad that topic came up today as far as static conditions. That's actually not something that comes up all the time, right? But it's also very important to understand what it is and what it means, especially in your claims. And I've been there. I've requested increases on things that I didn't qualify for an increase on, or that didn't even go any higher, right? Or that was a static condition and I didn't even know it. And so, I mean, you really got to understand these things. If you open the door to certain things, the VA can then look at it, right? So if you have a static condition and you're trying to reopen it for whatever reason, that might bring things into question. So it's really good to know that. And that actually this is teetering in that direction, but not quite the same topic. But I did want to throw out, for veterans that are already at 100%, especially 100% permanent and total, and P&T is a whole nother topic that we can dive into. But if you are at that point, and in my opinion, it is not worth going for more claims, right? So keep that in mind too. If you're at 100% permanent and total, there's a couple of ways that permanent and total can be potentially taken away, and one of them is doing more claims and opening up more claims, right? Because the VA at that point can then start looking at everything because you've opened a new claim if they want to. So just a little knowledge nugget there, a little piece of information that's important to take into consideration.
I see Joshua here real quick. What are your thoughts about VSO's DAV, Wounded Warrior Project, and VetCom, etc.? So in the beginning, Joshua, I had mentioned myself working with all of those. So all types of veteran entities, whether or not they serve federally, statewide, community-based, the programs that serve veterans, they have their own missions. They have their own purpose, and while I love VA Claims Insider and I root for us, I do root for all. I root for VSOs and the DAV and the Wounded Warrior Project. Anyone that is dedicating their existence in supporting veterans and ensuring that veterans are taken care of, you got an A+ in my book. And everyone here at VA Claims Insider agrees with that. No veteran is in the business of taking down other veterans. We all have the same goal in mind. And when you can get a bunch of veterans together with that same mindset and that same goal, you see great accomplishments. And so our hope is for all VSOs, DAV, all projects that are veteran based to have that same outcome. And while we don't work with those entities, we fully support them. But again, here at VA Claims Insider, we focus on education. Veterans are missing the gap. They're getting stuck in the doorway of the VA and not understanding how to service connect. They're not understanding how to speak on their conditions and how it's affecting their life. They just don't understand that criteria, which if you've ever seen the 38 CFR, it's pretty daunting. And if you're not fully immersed into it and wanting to know every single part of it, it's never going to make sense. So VA Claims Insider has been that roadmap for all veterans and to educate and provide that clear mind for when it comes claim submission, CMP time. The veterans are prepared. All of us, we're going to be prepared and we're going to get the ratings that we rightfully deserve. Just like Brian Reese said, you served, you deserve.
Absolutely. And that's a really good question too. And you guys, if you've checked out, some of Brian Reese's videos, blogs, so on and so forth, he even recommends himself, hey, explore those avenues, those VSO, those organizations, explore that, especially, those ones that are free of charge. Explore it, right? That's what it's there for. You can do that, and it's highly recommended. Now, if you don't want to, that's one thing, but it's definitely recommended to look into that. They are great organizations, like Jordan just said. It's veterans helping veterans most of the time. So that's really what we're going for. And with that, I did see a question from David, who's talking about he had a static condition, type 1 diabetes. They added retinopathy to the condition, got it removed from diabetes on appeal. They rated the retinopathy at 20, but then they reduced the diabetes from 40 to 20. So, and again, this kind of goes into what we were just talking about as far as, the education piece is huge, because even if you have a static condition, but you start doing more claims about it, you start kind of, maybe you request an increase on it, whatever it may be, it's going to open the door. And the VA, if they decide to send you to another CMP exam and that examiner has a medical opinion that the condition has improved, like David saw, and I saw this myself when I was going through the process, they can decrease things too, even if you were trying to increase. So that all comes back to making sure that you get educated up on the the qualifications, the rating criteria, what the VA could potentially do in certain situations, so on and so forth. It's a tough lesson to learn, but David, I feel you on that too. That happened to me as well. I remember I was at 90%. I really thought, I put something in, I really thought this is going to be it. This is going to get me to that 100, and I walked out of there at 80. And I was like, oh man, it was a gut punch. But yeah, it's your journey with VA claims is not over until you decide that it is. So keep going back. I eventually did. Eventually got to my 100% permanent and total. And so it's a beautiful thing. I do see one question here from Alfred relating to, and so this one might get a little, this could get a little complicated. Jordan, let me know if I'm missing anything on this one, but it says, what if you are 100% P&T with TDIU? Would you go for more claims? So if I'm understanding you correctly, I'm not sure that I am, Alfred, but usually it's one or the other, right? So if you're going to be 100% scheduler, that's just what it is. Or maybe you're not 100% scheduler, but you're on TDIU. Usually you're not going to be both. You're not going to have 100% scheduler rating and TDIU. In that case, if you're on TDIU and then you get your scheduler rating to 100, most of the time the VA is going to remove that TDIU, right? Because you're at 100% now, and it makes no difference, right? So if for some reason you do have a scheduler rating of 100 P&T and you have TDIU, you may want to make some calls to the VA and get that cleared up. Jordan, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think that was beautiful. And Alfred, yes, just like Coach TJ just said, It is one or the other. So if you are on the TDIU, but you reach that 100% PNT, full combined, and you're still seeing that TDIU, that is something to inform the VA, just so that there's nothing going on in the back end. Because remember, we discussed, if there's any fraud that the VA comes up with, and they'll definitely open it up to look. So if that is happening, which it might not, but if you do find out that it is TDIU and that 100% PNT, absolutely, definitely give them a call, ask them to remove that TDIU because you are 100% PNT.
Thank you, Coach Jordan. And with that, we are at the top of the hour. I want to thank all of y'all again for joining us for this past hour. If you had any questions or anything that were not addressed, you will be reached out to on those things. So just be on the lookout for that. But I hope y'all have a great week and weekend, and especially a very happy Veterans Day. Coach Jordan, it was a pleasure doing this live with you.
Yeah, same to you, Coach TJ. Happy Veterans Day, veterans. Thank you for your service to this beautiful country. Don't forget our live Zoom classes. Check out Brian's new book and book a discovery call. Let us know if we can be of assistance in educating you through your VA claims journey. We'll look forward to it.
Take care, y'all.
Bye.